About 35 people a year die in Central Florida due to exposure. Matthew's Hope isn't funded to be a shelter. We're not designed to be a shelter. There's nothing about us that says shelter. But then when you threw the wind chill factor in it, we realized it was becoming dangerously cold.
We had to do it because I called the main guy in Orlando and said, what other shelters are open? He said, we're not.
We don't have the funding for this. We really do not have the setup for this. What would Jesus do?
We put a call out to churches, and we had several churches that offered their places. All of the ones that reached out to us came together and worked together as a team.
I don't want to give everybody some rosy idea that churches were running towards us to help. And we're going to drop them off, and we're going to pick them up first thing in the morning before breakfast. Nobody will know we're there.
How did they specifically react to that request?
I don't know how to make a cricket sound, do you? All these people talking about preaching the gospel, just shut up. How about love God, love his people? And then shut up. Just do that.
At our peak time, I think we ended up with 124 people in the garden. We ran out of chairs. We had people sitting on the floor.
Sleeping in our food pantry.
Right,
Oh,
right.
my
Sleeping in our offices.
Yeah.
We fed people 3 times a day. They're sleeping there. We're doing laundry, doing showers. And in the mix of that, our regular outreach is happening. You end up spending the resources within a few days that you would in a month.
Hey everyone, my name is Mindy Hungerford with We Are Winter Garden. I'm going to try my best to fill in for the amazing Tracy Lewis. I'm joined by Pastor Scott, who's the founder and CEO of Matthew's Hope, as well as Shelley Bradford, who's the president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to episode 65, Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, presented by Imagine Marketing, where we will be discussing what has transpired recently when Matthew's Hope opened their campuses to serve as cold shelters during a stretch of winter weather here in the great state of Florida. So I was a little shocked when I got this itinerary that so many people don't realize that we actually need cold shelters for our homeless ministries. I know that you guys opened your campuses here. Can you tell me a little bit about what went into the decision to open those campuses as shelters in the month of January?
Well, I think, what's interesting is that the last time we really had to do this, it's not that we haven't been open as a shelter. We've opened for several hurricanes. We've had some cold weather dips over the last 15 years. This particular time literally hit on the anniversary of the starting of Matthew's Hope 15 years ago.
Wow.
So when we started seeing what was happening, we saw the forecast and what have you, first thing I said to Shelley is, gee, this looks a whole lot like something I saw 15 years ago when that helped us launch Matthew's Hope as a ministry to the homeless. And what some things have played in different this time is that now we have 2 locations. We are not fully funded to do 2 locations yet. So we had to be a little cautious, but we started looking at things like wind chill factor. And this is something a lot of people don't look at. They look at the temperature and they go, well, that's not so bad. And especially when you consider that a lot of people are from up north that come to live in Florida.
Right.
And they go, 40 degrees. What are you guys, out of your minds?
Yeah, we swim in 40 degrees.
And I want to say live here for a little while and see what that 40 degrees feels like. But then when you threw the wind chill factor in it, we realized it was becoming dangerously cold. And the truth remains is that about 35 people a year die in Central Florida due to exposure.
Oh my goodness. I mean, and it's very easy to say, 40 degrees is nothing when you're sitting in your warm house. You know what I mean?
Well, that
is right.
It's very easy to say that.
I mean, we actually had people that, for lack of a better term, got a little nasty with us. And you're sitting there kind of going, these are human beings.
Yep.
Yeah. And
These are real people.
these are real people. And
Someone's daughter or son or mother or father, whatever. Yeah.
it's been, I will say that the last month has probably been one of the toughest months we have had in a long time as a ministry. I've had friends tell me how exhausted I look and a little pissed off. And I go, yeah, it's.
I mean, we just came off the holiday season, which is always very, very busy for us. And then we roll right into where we all kind of have prepared our minds to be able to breathe a little and just relax.
Yeah.
And none of that has happened.
So everyone's just on empty right now.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Shelley, tell me a little bit about how many days did you guys provide cold shelters at each campus? And, what does that look like in the day-to-day of, so for someone like me, I've never volunteered with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and just, confess that now. And not in that capacity anyway.
Probably going to hell.
And, right. It's okay. They know me there. I know people. I've never volunteered with you guys, were working with the guests, right? So to speak.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I have no idea. Well, I'm like, yeah, you opened up your doors, and this is probably what most people think. You opened up your doors and it was warm and they came in. Congratulations. Everybody got a ticket to heaven.
We had a little sleepover.
Yeah, it was a little sleepy sleep.
No,
No.
not
Did y'all hit each other with pillows? No, of course
No.
not. Right.
That would
So
have been pretty.
Tell me a little bit about how many days this went on and really what was the day-to-day grind of that?
So we decided on Sunday afternoon that Sunday night was going to be cold enough to where we really just needed to open. And
So really no time to
that we had no time to prep.
Oh, goodness.
We thankfully had, a good select, cots. We had a lot of people that had already brought blankets because it had already been cold before the end of the year. So we had a lot of blankets. And so we literally got in our bus, drove around and said, hey, it's going to be really cold tonight. Do you want to come in? And the first night was, I think, 35 people in Winter Garden. How many was it over here? Or did y'all open on Sunday night?
No, we did too. We opened up and it was 35, 40 people.
Yeah.
The first night.
But then, as the week progressed, every day we would look because, we're all so tired and we have a limited staff and, our volunteers are older, so none of them want to spend the night with us. No,
Right.
I don't blame them.
Right. I mean, and really after 35, who doesn't want to sleep in their own bed? Like, I don't even want to sleep in a
Right.
hotel anymore. Like, it's not
Right.
my bed,
Right.
So I get
Right.
that.
Right.
Like you said, they are older and
Right.
it's a lot. It's a big
is.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, and Matthew's Hope isn't funded to be a shelter.
Right.
Okay. And we're not designed to be a shelter.
Right.
There's nothing about us that says shelter. And so it really has us, we have to shift our whole mentality.
Mm.
And then we've got to figure out, how do you pay for this when
Yeah. That was my
Each
next
time.
question. Yeah.
it was several days. The last one was 6.5 days by the time it was over. So that means we fed people 3 times a day.
3 times a day.
And they're sleeping there. We're doing laundry. We're, doing showers. We're doing all these different things. And in the mix of that, our regular outreach is happening along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so you end up spending the resources within a few days that you would in a month. And so
So just burning through.
yeah.
Burning
So,
through.
I mean, I had more fun when I was a drug addict burning $100 bills. I mean, the reality of it is you sit there and you kind of go, okay, we don't have the funding for this. We really do not have the setup for this. And people are just going to love this. What would Jesus do? I mean, it's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is would Jesus just sit there and say, you know what? It's just, we're not prepared. We haven't spoken to the board yet.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to go.
We have a meeting next Wednesday. We can talk about how we can do it in the future.
Meanwhile, everybody's frozen under an overpass.
Well,
Right.
and for me, it kind of really became very clear that we had to do it because I called the main guy in Orlando and said, what other shelters are open?
Mhm.
Because I had specific needs that needed to be taken care of. He said, we're not. And I
Wait.
was like,
They were full or they weren't open?
not
Open.
open.
Was there a reason that they weren't open?
Because they don't look at the feels like temperature. They look at the temperature below 40 and it has to stay below 40 for more than 4 hours. And
That's wild.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here going, okay, we really ended up at our peak time. I think we ended up with 124 people in Winter Garden. And
Wait, that's just at the Winter Garden.
That's just
station.
regardless.
124.
right now, thankfully, we put a call out to churches and we had several churches that offered their places. And then we had to get together as a team and figure out what makes sense. Do we take some of the churches that we're offering to help
Mhm.
were very far away from where our homeless people are familiar.
Yeah.
And we also have to consider their mental state and are they going to
Yes.
get agitated?
Yeah.
So we chose to work, and we worked with all of them.
Mhm.
All of the ones that reach out to us came together and worked together as a team,
Love that.
and
Love
which-
to hear that.
which has been unusual for us historically.
Yes. I
You
was
know.
going to say that's kind of not the norm, right?
Right.
In my knowledge.
And so we had the Dream Center speak up from Winter Garden, as well as a Church at the Cross spoke
Okay.
up. And so the Church at the Cross could accommodate a lot of people,
Wonderful.
which was great, but then we had to make sure that what they could accommodate, they also could control.
Correct. Well, I mean, yeah, well, there still has to be, it can't be chaos.
There's not, right.
Right,
And
right.
if you don't know how to work with a homeless person,
With a homeless person and know them and know what their, dare I say, triggers or whatever, right? Like,
or what are they going to try to get away with?
uh-huh.
Well, and here's things that I also want to touch on. I don't want to give everybody some rosy idea that churches were running towards us to help.
Oh, that's next. That was that.
Okay.
That's actually on the
Because
list.
the reality of it is, just like 15 years ago, some of the comments that were made in our ask, quite honestly, if I were you, I'd just go ahead and shut your doors, because it's not a ministry.
Yeah.
And that sounds pretty harsh, and nobody likes me to hear that. And I'll probably, John doesn't like me call them nasty grams. I'll probably get some. I'm just at a point where I do not care. We have to sit there and start wondering, because the Bible's simple. I mean, all these people talking about preaching the gospel, just shut up. How about love God, love his people? And then shut up. Just do that.
Love
and
God.
Jesus also said, interestingly enough in scripture, watch what I do and you do it.
And mimic it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't say, go have a meeting with your elders or your trustees and see if maybe next time we can help. And again, some people are going to take issue with that. And quite honestly, I'm just to the point after 15 years, I just don't care.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing. 15 years later, there's still, it is the same response as it was 15 years ago. There's been no growth. There's been no pivoting. There's been no way for these churches to change their policies and procedures. So like, hey, in cases of emergency, we have this policy and procedure in place to support Matthew, to support our community members.
Here's what's interesting.
And I could see how that would be frustrating.
When I was still pastoring the church, when I saw something happen in the community, the first thing I did was look at who was doing something and call them and say, is there something we can do to partner with you?
Support you, yeah.
Okay. I never pastored a large church. I never had owned a building. I didn't have any of those things. So I was at a disadvantage, which some of the, oddly enough, it's the smaller churches that are most active.
That'll step up, yeah.
That will step up.
In my experience.
But they also are the ones that have a rented storefront or something like that.
Right.
And they have some more challenges that personally I never cared about, but I understand why they do.
Yeah,
okay.
That too.
But when you sit there and you consider the number of churches in the 17 municipalities that we serve, certainly there could be more of an outpouring. But the other thing that really bothered me about it was the fact that, again, I would have picked up the phone and asked, but the fact is that we're in the middle of the largest homeless crisis we've ever had.
Yeah.
In the United States, but in particular in Florida, because Florida is the third largest homeless population in the country and one of the fastest growing homeless population. It's in our news every day.
I read that it's up 300% in the last 4 years or something.
That would be a fair number.
Yeah.
And that's probably undercounted. Now, you have people that sit there and go, well, they're coming from up north. Statistically, we have shown over the years that about 85% of these people have a direct connection to the community they're living in.
Right.
And whether it was they owned a business, they owned a home, they grew up there, they went to our local
Yeah, they're not just transplants coming down here and looting everything.
And I want to put this out there also. When we put the ask out there, we said very clearly, all we're asking is for a small piece of real estate.
Just space.
We will feed them.
So we will manage it.
We will feed them. We will shower them. We will clothe them. We do background checks. So we're not going to send people that we know have mental health issues, or criminal histories or something over to a neighboring church or business. We're going to send you the families.
Yeah.
We're going to send you the ladies. The reality of it is our fastest growing population right now is seniors. So I'm going to send over some 65 to 85.
Harmless.
Yeah.
Harmless. Right.
So,
not sending over violent.
And we're going to drop them off and we're going to pick them up first thing in the morning before breakfast. Nobody will know we're there.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How did they specifically react to that request? What,
I don't know how to make a cricket sound. Do you?
Oh, really?
Okay.
There was no response?
There was very little response. Now, I want to be very clear also. The community as a whole, unbelievable.
Steps up.
Unbelievable. Both in West Orange County and Central Brevard.
Wow.
But here's what's also interesting about it is that, and I find this interesting from a biblical standpoint too, how many people at both locations, parents that came in and said, my child said we had to do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
My child said that we should buy something, that we should take blankets, that we should go through the neighborhood and collect stuff.
Wow.
And when you look at scripture, when it says a child will lead us.
Yes.
I thought that was fascinating that how many parents first off said, I recognized it was bad and felt that we should do something, but it was because of my 8-year-old daughter, my 6-year-old son saying, what are we doing to help that really got them off the couch?
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating. And I find that what it tells me, Mindy, is that our kids, their thinking is all based on their learned behaviors. So when they see their church don't do anything, they don't do anything.
Yep.
When they find their parents are saying bad things about homeless people, they believe them.
That's right. That's right.
And so, again, I'm going to remind you what I said earlier. Jesus said, watch what I do.
Yeah.
And you do the same.
Yeah.
And, we need to get back to that childlike mentality that the scriptures called us to.
That's right.
And say, okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't really feel I have the resources. I'm not sure I know what I'm doing.
But I'm going to walk.
However,
I'm going to walk in faith and be obedient. My mother always said, children live what they learn and learn what they live.
Yep.
Your mom's a wise woman.
And those kids are going to grow up to raise their children to care about their, the less fortunate in their communities and things like that. All right. I'm going to take it back a little bit because I have not been to your Winter Garden campus in probably a decade. When I was just painting some windows for you a million years ago. And then this is my first time here at the Brevard campus, and I haven't had a chance to get a tour of anything yet. So Shelley, I expect that to be coming later. Tell me a little bit about what that looked like. Like were people on top of each other at the locations? You mentioned 124 people at the Winter Garden location. Did you separate them by gender? Did you try to keep families together? Give me all the deets.
So in the Winter Garden location, it really was, we had families together as much as possible. And then the rest of the population just kind of mixed together with their group of people that they came with. But we ran out of chairs. We had people sitting on the floors.
Oh,
I mean, it was
rough.
I mean, people kept going, do you have any more chairs? And we're like, no, because we don't ever have this many of you.
It's something as simple as a chair.
There was
as simple as a chair. Yeah. Yeah.
some people sleeping. I mean, sleeping in our food pantry.
Oh, my gosh.
Sleeping in our office.
Yeah.
So this is when you guys are like,
sleeping
we got
in
to
our
get
hair salon.
we got to get some churches involved here.
We have been one time this week, Shannon walked by and she looked over at this mound of bags because every day we would put their beddings in a black bag and their name on it for the next day. And we look over and this guy's asleep on this mound of bags like
on the bags.
But it was almost like he was like, I'm safe.
Oh,
And
he was warm.
And so we, touched actually Shannon did, because I would have been scared to death that he'd jump up and whack me in the face. But Shannon went, hey, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was just, this was so comfortable. Yes.
Well,
yes.
How about I was just so tired.
So tired, right?
I want to come back to that in a few minutes, though, too. But also, when you look at in our Brevard location, his challenge is I do have a large room, and we had prepared from the standpoint, we had ordered help raise money and ordered 100 cots.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so
but you weren't really preparing for this specific.
But we weren't prepared. Yeah, we're just kind of preparing more for like storms and stuff, get people off the floor.
Trying to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
So it's, I was, one of the things people got upset with us about is they said, well, you should have planned better for all this. This was 3 times bigger than anything we'd ever done before.
And not to mention, you're not a shelter.
And we're not a shelter.
You're not a shelter.
But to hear some of the angry voices and the naysayers, often out of the Christian community itself.
Oh yeah.
Again, somebody wants to bash me for that. And, I'm almost bulletproof. But we're trying to maneuver through that and help educate.
Yeah.
Because what we have is a lot of ignorance.
Yeah.
And
people just don't know.
I'm old enough at 62, soon to be 63, that we understand the difference between ignorance and stupidity.
Yeah.
They're not the same word.
They're not.
Today, they like to mix them.
Yeah.
Ignorance, not knowing what you don't know. Now, stupid is when you still talk out of your backside.
Well, it's
okay, or no.
Yeah. Like it's okay to say, hey,
but rather than
I've never been here before. I've never done this. I don't know what the layout is. I don't know what your setup is. I didn't know that you guys weren't a shelter.
Right.
I didn't know any. That's okay. Mm-hmm. What's not okay is to judge based on what you don't know.
Ask the question.
Yeah.
And so the challenge you have in Brevard is that everything that we have is on one 6-acre piece of property. Where in Orange County, we have our houses are a few blocks this way.
Right.
Our stores a few blocks this way. Our Montessori preschool's a few blocks that way.
Yeah. You're not so compact. Yeah.
So there's good and bad. The downside
Both
for us
sides,
over here the campus is so large is to make sure we keep everything secure.
Right.
I
Security.
mean, we got like 40, almost 50 cameras on each location.
And all that costs money. And it costs
that costs money. Doing background checks costs money.
Yeah,
all the things
that
we
costs
do
money.
cost money.
Everything costs money. It's more than just blankets and bread.
And the one thing that separates us also is most of the time when shelters open of any kind, even the one that are actually shelters, they release everybody at 7 a.m. or sometimes earlier, rarely later.
Dang.
Now, the problem with that is most people don't know how to even understand how the weather is reported. So here's a little lesson on that too. And I had to learn myself. When they say it's going to be a high of 63 today and a low of 30, you assume that 30 being below the other number is later on that night. That number should actually be at the top because the coldest time of the day is typically between 4 and 8 a.m.
Right. It's in the morning.
Okay. And so a lot of people don't know that. So you're releasing them out into the coldest weather.
And during the coldest part of the day.
And the next thing we do is we do a 24/7 shelter. You can leave if you want. We realize that we do have people with various addictions and we know they're going to start detoxing. And if they feel they need to leave the property, take care of that. It's not that I'm advocating for addiction, nor can they stay here if they're actively using. However, being an addict myself, I also understand they realize they're going to be locked down for several days.
Right.
And they themselves don't want to have an episode in front of people.
Well, and like Shelley mentioned earlier, there's families there and all that. I mean, you do have to think about the other people in the facility, to be fair.
You do. And we think all that out, plan all that. I mean, to give you an example, we have a chapel here. And so we have people with disabilities, and we put some of the people with disabilities in our chapel because they need a little bit more privacy on having their spouse help them get into a bed.
Yeah.
You know, one of the girls is paraplegic.
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to make her go through everything she has to do in front of everybody.
In front of 40 other people.
Right.
No.
And so, more in front of 120 different people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. So, we, to feed all those folks, to get them all showered, to make sure they're clothed properly. I mean, again, most shelters, and I don't want to say all because someone might know, but it's fair to say most of them are not clothing them and having them take showers on a daily basis. They're not feeding them throughout the day. It just doesn't work that way. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that the way we do it,
but it's just the truth.
It's just the truth.
It's just the truth, and the truth has its place.
Yeah, well, yeah, and so, we have done a lot with nothing. The first time we opened in Brevard was for a hurricane, like 3 weeks after we obtained the property, and we had 65 people here, and there was 4 of us, 4 employees, but we handled it. So it doesn't take a lot if you just take a deep breath, walk in faith, and have an open heart to the fact that these are human beings.
Well, and something that I love about what Matthew's Hope does, and you've always done this. I met you when Matthew's Hope was this big, and then I recently went to your fundraiser, and you were talking the numbers, and I just kept saying, like, I just can't believe they've grown this much. I was just so proud of you guys, honestly. Something that I really loved about you guys is because I work with many ministries as well, is that you guys never remove dignity from people. I feel like you guys really serve our community and give these folks dignity instead of coming from a place of like, well, you have nothing. You need my help. Here's what it is. And, I don't want to hear, what is it? Like, don't pitch a fit, right? This is what it is. And even you just saying like, hey, we have a paraplegic woman. I don't want her to go through that. Like, I've worked with many ministries that's not even in their, on their radar.
Minnie, that made me think of something. It has nothing to do. It kind of has to do with talk about, because when you talk about dignity, one, and you made a comment about, well, you're a homeless person, kind of be, okay, is when people want us to give us their used underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Underwear is the only thing that we require. Underwear and socks to be new. And, and I get the question all the time. Well, I laundered them. Okay. Okay. And my response often, it doesn't normally get a healthy response back. But I sit there and go, well, if I wash my boxer shorts and hand them to you.
He gave them to you and you got to put them on?
Well, no, I wouldn't put them on.
Oh, so it's not good.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, those are things we deal with also, is just people dumping stuff on us. And one of the challenges that we have, and we're still challenged with right now after the fact, is we had people just dumping stuff on us
Trash.
that has nothing.
Oh, yeah. I'm very aware.
And we have bags and bags and bags of stuff that we can't use, but it's costing us a
and now
fortune.
you have to get rid of it.
Right.
So it not only does it cost you money to get rid of it, because it does, because manpower and things like that. But secondly, it's one more thing on your to-do list. I do global mission work. I run an orphanage in Uganda, and people message me all the time. How can I help? And I'm like, hey man, $20 would feed these 106 children for a week, 3 meals a day for a week. And they go, you know what? My son has some old clothes. You want to bring that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to cart.
How are you
going to
get it there?
Old clothes across the globe.
Right.
To Uganda, but $20 would really make a difference. Oh well,
And
I get it.
And I think a lot of people is very innocent.
We're back to ignorance.
But it's ignorance. And that's why when we try to educate or we say, bring us yesterday, we literally got a box of live ammo. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Hold on.
And
how on earth would y'all use that? How would that?
Not only how will we use it, but what are the dangers of that?
Of having that even in your facility?
Yeah. And so,
Are you kidding right now?
No. And then I literally got people kind of upset. Now we had a lot of people contact and said, I'll take that ammo.
I'll take the ammo. Yeah. I'll take the ammo.
Okay. And I'm going, you're missing the point.
Ringing.
And I cannot be handing out ammo from Matthew's Hope Ministries. I'm sorry. Yeah. Nor can I those Fredericks of Hollywood's panties you sent me. Okay.
Oh my word.
People think I'm kidding, but no, we see things that just go, just when you think you didn't see the last thing that you go,
oh yeah.
Oh,
and another ministry I volunteered out to open a bag. It'd have urine and all the things.
Oh yeah.
All right. So let's land the plane here. How many people total did you guys help on both campuses?
So we were just talking about it. Easily, it was over 300 different individuals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And over how many days total? Was it 6, you said?
7.
6,
total.
11.
It was 7 total in Winter Garden.
7 total in Winter Garden. Well, then we were open. We were open again right before that for how many days?
Oh yeah.
Was that 6, 5? I have to remember this. January
ran
was kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But I think all today it was something like altogether it was 12 or 13 days.
Wow.
Total.
Now let me ask you this. This is the money question. What would have happened to those people if y'all wouldn't have stepped up and pivoted and made this happen? Surely someone would have.
If they were
not made it through that.
Mm-hmm.
If they were fortunate, maybe they got arrested under the new statute 1365 and sat in the jail.
If they were lucky.
If they were lucky.
That's a twist.
Yeah, that's a twist. That's a
twist for sure.
I can't even believe I actually said that, but it might be the one time it'd be fortunate. But I think that we saw people that didn't come in, and we saw some people that were ill that became very ill.
Very ill, yeah.
I'm not aware of any deaths, but I am aware of some people that have been very sick since then. But here's the other part: what people miss also is that because we're not just a shelter, because we are a ministry moving people towards a life of independence and self-sustainability, this gave us an opportunity for us to evaluate and watch who the workers were in the room. Who are the people that were saying, hey, can I get that for you?
Right.
Can I help out in some way? And what I will tell you is that we have one of our females in Brevard has now been housed.
Wow.
We got our housing. And we have 6 others that we are lining up for housing either directly or indirectly through us, that we are able to identify that. So
because it just really revealed their hearts.
It does. What happens is we see them a few hours a week, and we kind of are watching for what kind of tools they got in their toolbox, what kind of tools are missing, and those type of things. Who's looking to help other people or outside their own head, and those are the folks that we try to move towards transitional housing, and because we feel they got a good chance to becoming fully independent, self-sufficient again. And so I was talking to one of our girls, Lori, that we put into a place. She's now been into a place for a week? I think something like that.
Yeah.
She looks about 15 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, Lori, you look great.
You look great.
Said, yeah.
You look great.
And she said,
housing looks good on you.
Yeah. And she goes, Scott, just being able to sleep in a bed. And here's something that was interesting about Lori. And I know we're trying to wrap this up, but Lori was one of these tough gals that worked construction for her whole life.
She's a tough gal.
Okay. And what happened is she wasn't feeling good at work. And for a couple of days, just kept pounding through. She ended up having triple bypass surgery.
Oh, my word.
And by the time she recovered from that, she had lost pretty much everything. And she couldn't go back to work because her body couldn't do the
But
work.
that's just proof that some people are one surgery, one health affliction away from homelessness.
And so she's been homeless ever since.
Oh, my word.
And she is so grateful, and she works so hard that sometimes we got to pull her back.
And be like,
Our medical team does an evaluation and a mental health and physical evaluation for everybody we bring into our housing.
okay,
So she's been through that. They say, hey, she is mentally solid,
stable.
dealing with some depression, but we think that's completely related to
That's environmental.
living right.
Yeah,
That's environmental.
And so now you see her, she's smiling, she's working.
Love that.
She
Way to
is
go,
taking-
Lori.
yeah. So
Way to go, Lori. Cheering you on, babe.
there's
Cheering you
another example of what changes everything.
I love that. Well, just on behalf of myself and the rest of the community, thank you all for what you do. Thank you to everyone watching and listening. If you want to support the efforts of Matthew's Hope, which why wouldn't you? Okay. Please visit MatthewsHopeMinistries.org and help us spread the word by liking, sharing, and subscribing to this podcast. Thank you so
And
much.
wait till you see what's coming up in the next episodes.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
There you go.